Hey, John here. In this lesson, I'm going to show you a very important way of practicing scales. It's so important, in fact, that I wrote a book about it, and you can find a link to the book in the description below if you're interested. But you can take this framework and apply it in your own way if you want. I'm just going to show you the way that I like to do it, and we're going to use the C Aeolian scale, C natural minor, for this example. And in the book you will have all the modes of the major scales, so Lydian, Phrygian, and so on. I like to work through scales in this fashion, basically using what I call 3 zones. And I've already made a video about the 3 zones, so I'm going to link to that so you can check that out, so I don't have to go through everything again. So the TLDR version of this would be, we start from the lowest available root, and then we go up in this scale shape, and I'm going to use 3 notes per string in this case. Then we do it again, which I call zone 2, so this was zone 1. And finally zone 3. And the significance of this then is that you get to see how we're playing basically the same notes. We extend the range a bit on the low side as we go up through the zones. But basically we play the same notes, but the notes move around, meaning that in this case we have 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, and in this case we have 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, and in zone 3 we have 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5. So when you do that enough, you're gonna realize that, oh, okay, for example, the 5th, different way of seeing where the 5th is. And the guitar can be quite a confusing instrument just because we have the exact same notes in several different places. But using this way of looking at the fretboard will free you up from that problem, because you start seeing that it's not that many options you have in reality. Of course you can go like, well, I can find a 5th here as well. Yes, sure, but that's not the most practical way of doing it. So what we're interested in here is seeing the intervals in the vicinity of whatever root note that you're playing. Once you have those 3 positions then for whatever scale you're playing, to really get a good handle on them, I find one of the best ways of doing it is to go through it systematically with different sequences and also intervallic sequences. So the one we're going to look at today is a classic. It's just a sequence of thirds. So basically we number just the notes of the scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and so on. A third sequence would be 1, 3, 2, 4, 3, 5, 4, 6, and so on. And I do this in 2 different ways. I do it ascending and descending. But I don't do it in the same exercise. So the way that I like to do it is to divide it up. So I start by doing ascending thirds. So I'm going to start the scale with the thirds. And so on. And then I'm going to go down the scale as I reach the top. So it's going to sound like this. Once I've done that, I do the opposites. I start with the scale and then go down with the thirds. And that's going to sound like this. And I simply repeat that in zone 2 and then 3 as well. I'm going to show you exactly what that sounds like in a second. So the benefit then of working through these type of sequences is that you have a strict pattern you need to follow if you want to say that you're able to do it. And it's not about speed at all, as you saw in the demonstration I just did. So that's basically the tempo where I'm practicing at, because I want every note to be perfect. And again, you need to adapt your technique to get through a specific sequence of notes. And I remember an interview with Paul Gilbert where he said that he liked learning classical pieces for that reason, because he couldn't change the notes. If he had a lick that he was working on that he came up with himself, he could always change the sequence if it was too hard. Whereas with a classical piece, yes, you can change the fingering, but you still need to play the notes the way that they were written. And this is kind of the same mentality here. So you need to get through these sequences in the way that they're intended. And then if you end up having trouble somewhere, that's really good. So don't get frustrated. Just work through it, because that's going to build your technique way more than sitting there trying to like muscle away at some, way too high metronome speed. So really go for accuracy here and relaxation. And if you do that and work through all these different modes and all the different scale shapes, you're going to feel a huge difference in your playing. All right, as you heard in the examples I played so far, I have a drone in the background. And a drone is just a low ringing note. That's going to be the root note. So your ear is going to perceive everything played over that note as the intervals related to the particular note you're playing. And that builds your ear like nothing else. So that's super important to use when you practice. I suggest that you use it at quite a low volume though, so it doesn't sort of mask what you're playing, but enough so you can hear the note, and so you get your brain to perceive the note as the root note. And don't worry, your brain will do that by itself, so make sure that you choose the correct key when you do this. All right, so here's zone 2, ascending. Here's zone 2, descending. And finally, we have zone 3, ascending, and then descending right after. Alright, so give this a try, and if you like this approach, definitely check out my book. It's $9, way underpriced. I go through 10 different sequences using all 7 modes in 3 different positions, and it's a really good way of practicing scales for your technique, your fretboard knowledge, and for your ears. So give that a try, and if you want to check out some fast picking licks, you can check out this video.